May steps into it, takes a shot downfield, and caught for the touchdown, Kayshon Boutte. Patriots in field goal range at the moment. Here's one downfield, and caught for the touchdown, Kyle Williams.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome on back to the Pats Across the Pond. And he's had the old name there. The Pats Across the Pond podcast. I'm your host, Karl. I am joined tonight by Kieren. We should hopefully have Nick be joining with us tonight because in the early hours of yesterday morning, the schedule got officially released and we're going to break it all down for you with a very fine-tooth comb, and we'll see how we get on. Kieren, how are you doing this evening, my friend?
Yeah, all good, all good. I've literally, as of maybe 15, 20 minutes ago, just finished watching the first episode of the new season of Forged in Foxborough, and it is very, very good. So, yeah, I would recommend anyone that's not seen that already to get on that. I'm sure we'll talk about it another time. But, yeah, the schedule's been released, and we now know who we are playing and when. And, yeah, we can now start looking forward to the next few months.
Yeah, we definitely can. Listen, I haven't watched the first episode yet. That's probably something I do over the weekend. Maybe on tomorrow night would be a good idea. But maybe we'll probably do a reaction to it. Considering we're in the off season now, probably might do like maybe a reaction show in the week, next week sometime, to actually discuss what it's all about and so on. But while we're at it, please make sure that you are smashing the like button, you are gronk spiking the subscribe button, telling all your friends. Follow us on social media platforms. Make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify and on Apple as well. We didn't say this on our last show on Tuesday, and that's the fact we actually have now made it to over 100 subscribers. We are now on 103 subscribers. So thank you so much for everyone that has joined us over. And yeah, let's keep it going. We want to keep on building. We want to keep going. And yeah, it's a new age for us here on the Across the Pond network. Okay, you know why we're here. The Patriots 2026 schedule has been released. We did say that this coming season was going to be a bit of a gauntlet, shall we say? And yeah, remember what I said on Tuesday, Kez? I said if we don't have the Super Bowl rematch in week one, the NFL are not doing their jobs correctly. And we're going to first start off. It was week one, and of course, it is Seattle. We are facing the Seahawks on Wednesday, September 9th. Yes, I know that's a weird day to have an NFL. We're not in COVID. This is just the NFL getting greedy again with the money situation. Yeah, Seattle in Lumen Field. We have to watch them raise their Super Bowl banner up and let them flex and flex and flex for a good fucking half an hour or so. Is this a bad omen for the Pats, or is this a case of, do you know what? This is probably the hardest game on paper out of all of we've got. So it's best to get out the way now. If we win, fantastic. If we don't, we got out the way.
No issues with getting it out the way early. I'm just not a fan of this in general from kind of a wider league perspective. I don't like how we're now opening the new season. If you look at this from a neutral perspective, how we're opening the new season with the game that we just watched the previous season. I don't really like that. I feel like maybe you could open the season with, I don't know, maybe you get a divisional game straight off of the Rams and the Seahawks. But look, that's what they've decided to do. Nothing we can do about it now. The benefit is to get it out of the way nice and early. It's certainly not going to be easy. Going to Seattle, opening game of the season in that stadium, as you said, when they're going to be lifting the banner, it's going to be, a really, really raucous environment. The only thing I will say is that I would say as of now, I would expect this game to be slightly different to the one we saw a few months ago. Not necessarily with the overall result, because look, we will rightfully go into this game as the underdog. But what I mean by that is, Seattle have lost some pieces, so there's no Kenneth Walker anymore. They're running out there with a rookie running back who, in my opinion, shouldn't have gone in the first round. They've lost some pieces on defense, and week one often throws up a few surprises. And if you look at the areas where we were very vulnerable against the Seattle Seahawks last time, we couldn't run the ball. Offensive line were overmatched. Obviously, we struggled in the passing game because our receivers weren't really doing much down the field. But if we're going into this game this time around with an improved offensive line, an emphasis on helping the running game by adding the likes of Julian Hill and Reggie Gilliam, if you look at the pieces we've added on defense, and then we're going into this game with Romeo Doubs and sounds like AJ Brown as well, I would like to think the Patriots can play the Seahawks a lot closer in this game. I would feel like the game script and will go a lot different. Now, whether that translates to a win, I'm not sure. You still maybe would say that the Seahawks would win the game, but I certainly don't think it will be like last time where for a large part of the game we couldn't get anything going, and ultimately it looked like the Seahawks were gonna win that game from the first minute. I'm not sure we'll get that this time around, but yeah, it'll be a really tough game to start the season.
It will be a tough game to start the season. As I said, to get the hardest game out the way, and if we win, great. If we lose, we got the hardest game out the way. But if you look at over the broader picture, the first 4 weeks, the first 4 weeks, 3 of them are on the road. That's a tough out to start the season. As we said, week 1 at Seattle, then we're back at Gillette to face the Steelers, then we're on the road to Jacksonville and on the road to Buffalo. Those are four for the first 4 daunting games. That's going to be a huge test for us. Straight off the bat, we knew this weren't going to be an easy slate. We've got like the 5th or the 6th hardest schedule in the NFL, so it was going to be a test for us.
Well, that schedule difficulty is based on last season's results, right? So you can take that with a pinch of salt because it's not necessarily going to translate to this coming season. But it is a difficult start. I'm not necessarily concerned about having 3 road games because ultimately then you get the other end of that where you get a lot of home games in a row later in the season. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think. Yes, we'll touch on each game individually, but if you look at that batch of games, if you want to split the season up into batches of games, to something that we used to do in my former job when I was working in professional football, we used to split the season into batches. And if you look at this batch of games, you want to ideally be coming out of that no worse than 2-2, ideally. Now, I think 2-2 is achievable. I certainly think that is. Is it totally unrealistic we could be 1-3? Absolutely not. But I think if you want to stay in touch and you want to go on to challenge for the division again, to come out of that 2-2 is kind of the baseline. I think you said that in the group chat this morning, Karl, about you want to set the bar at 2-2 as the minimum requirement after them first 4 games. So, and I think that's achievable. So what, I don't think that's unrealistic at all.
It's not, but as we said, the Seahawks game is going to be a tricky one. It's the curtain raiser for the season ahead, and then obviously next on the docket we go to Foxborough for a rematch against the Steelers. Week 3 last season was a fucking clusterfuck.
Yeah, it was a shit show.
Because that was a shit show. If we turned the ball over 5 times and still lost by 1 touchdown. Like,
yeah, and if we hadn't continued to shoot ourselves in the foot in that game, we would have won that game comfortably.
We would have won that game comfortably. Probably would have got home field advantage as well.
I think that will maybe be in the existing players' minds. They'll want to, right those wrongs from last year. I'm not convinced on the Steelers this year, irrespective of whether Aaron Rodgers is there or not. At this point in his career, he's a very mediocre quarterback. Okay, yes, they do have some pieces, Metcalf and Pittman with Jeremy Bernard in the slot. It's a nice receiver trio. And, they've got some pieces on defense. But I think overall, I just think the Steelers are going to be pretty bang average again. They were pretty bang average for the most of last season. I didn't like the hire of Mike McCarthy at all. I just don't think he's done anything for years. He's just kind of a vanilla coach. So I don't think the Steelers are going to be that good this year. So I would expect us to win this game and win the game comfortably. Whether it'll be a blowout is another story. I don't want to get carried away. I don't think it will be a blowout. The Steelers always play games tough. As I said when we were talking about the Steelers game last year, it's a classic AFC matchup, Patriots Steelers. It's a real throwback. But I would expect New England to get off, or get a win on the board here at home to Pittsburgh, and head into that third game with at least one win on the board.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't trust the Steelers at all. They took our freaking right tackle Maxi Iheanacho, which we're gonna see how he pans out. But overall, I don't fear the Steelers as what they once used to be. I think Mike McCarthy, don't think he does much. I mean, let's be real, he did get a Dallas Cowboys team to 12 wins 3 times in a row. So he's a very good regular season head coach. When it gets to like crunch time in the playoffs, that's when he falls flat on his face. Now I know obviously Mike McCarthy is in a lot more of a tougher division. He's got to deal with Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. He's got to deal with Joe Burrow from the Cincinnati Bengals. He's gonna have to deal with what asshat they've got. The Cleveland Browns have got a quarterback, right? But at the end of the day, I think if we wrote off the Steelers last year, they ended up winning the division.
Yeah, but that was I think they benefited from circumstance. Like I said, they were pretty bang average for the majority of last season and won the division because Baltimore underperformed and lost their starting quarterback for the majority of the season. Likewise, the Bengals. So yeah. Is that going to happen again? I don't think so. I think you could make a legitimate argument that the Steelers might have the worst roster in that division, which seems crazy to say. I think obviously the Bengals have still got holes, in certain areas on their roster, and the Browns have a huge quarterback question. But I think the Browns have got a better overall roster than them. The Browns are absolutely loaded. The only thing that's going to hold them back is the quarterback play. So
and the head coach.
And the head coach, yeah, I'll say that as well because I wasn't a fan of the Todd Monken hire. So yeah, I don't expect the Steelers to be massively competitive. I think they're kind of a team where if they win 8 games, I mean, there was this time where they'd always finish over 500 under Tomlin and continue to do so. But they're kind of like the most 500 team in the NFL. They're probably not going to be that bad, but they're also not going to be that great either. They're very much middle of the road.
Yeah, definitely. So let's just say worst case scenario for us. Worst case scenario for us is 1-3 in those first 4 games. That's worst case scenario, shall we say?
Yeah, I would be floored if we didn't win at least one of the first 4 games.
Yeah, I'd be concerned. Going into October, I'd be very concerned at that point. Moving into week 3, we went back on the road again. And this time, it's the Jags. You've mentioned in the chat that you don't think the Jags... You think the Jags are going to tail off? That's week 1. What the hell's going on here? It's week 3. You think the Jags might tail off?
Yes.
What's your reason?
The reason I think that is, first and foremost, that division has got a lot better. So... Houston, for me, are the cream of the crop of that division and are legitimate Super Bowl contenders, providing CJ Stroud doesn't have a brain fart again, because that was what cost them their season. You then look at the Colts, who were motoring along with Daniel Jones until he got injured and obviously ended up missing the playoffs as a result. And then Tennessee have improved massively. They've look at their offseason, the amount of players they brought in free agency to restructure that roster, signing, drafting Carnell Tate, 4th overall. They've improved a lot and they have a young quarterback. I just look at that division getting better, and I look at Jacksonville, who have lost Devin Lloyd, one of the best interior linebackers in the NFL. Huge loss. They lost Newsome in the secondary. Travis Hunter, who you traded up for last year, He's probably going to play more corner than he's going to play receiver. And they've lost Travis Etienne, who at times last year carried their entire offense. I just do not see Jacksonville being as good as they were last year. I think they had, as I said on the best and worst classes show that I've done with Rob, thought their draft was by far the worst in the league, reaching on a blocking tight end in round 2, drafting a load of no-name guys throughout the draft that had, a lot of late grades. I just don't think this Jags team has done a lot this offseason to tell you that they're going to be as good as they were. So I would have us winning this game. However, the one caveat is, and it was a good point that Phil Perry made on the Patriots Talk podcast after the schedule was announced, is that this game is in Florida in late summer going into the autumn.
Hot, humid.
That weather will be a factor. That will be hot and humid, which benefits Jacksonville, which will make things tricky because, it's similar to New England in the past have struggled in Miami in the heat early in the season. So you have to contend with that. But I do think all around next season, we will be a much better team than the Jags. And I would expect us to take this one.
You say we're going 2-1 after week 3?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough then. So then we move. Okay, so then we move into week 4. And we have to go to, it's supposedly this new state-of-the-art stadium. It's supposed to be high-tech. It's supposed to be absolutely amazing. I just refer to it as the lavatory seat because we have to go to Buffalo. So it's this. I think it's going to be their second home game. It might be their second home game. Not sure if it's their third. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll have to double check. But they're going to want to really make it really awkward for us in that stadium. The thing is, here's the thing. A lot of teams, not just in the NFL, but in all sports, whenever they move from their old stadium to a new stadium, it does take a year or so to get used to your new surroundings in a way.
Yeah, it does. And ultimately, this is a new, obviously, state-of-the-art, multi-$100 million stadium. I think it might even cost in the billions. I don't know how much it cost.
It is. It's basically the same architects that did Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That's why I call it the lavatory seat. But carry on.
I mean, it does. There are similarities. The only thing I will say is I think character of stadiums is really important, right? With the history. So Lambeau is steeped in history. It has tons of character. And that goes a long way. You've seen, if you compare it to the English leagues, West Ham have not been the same since they left Upton Park. Spurs have struggled since they've gone into this magnificent new stadium.
Technically, it's on their old ground.
Yeah, but the stadium's different. It doesn't have the same sort of closed-in feel as White Hart Lane.
It didn't.
So, obviously, the original Highmark Stadium was a very unique stadium, kind of sunk into the ground, right on top of the field, loud, lots of character, lots of tradition. And they're now going into a brand new stadium. So whether that has any effect, I don't know. It could do. Obviously, this is the first big division test. And I feel like we are going to be having, a biannual duel with the Bills every year for the foreseeable
I think we're going to split. We're going to split with Buffalo, I think. Same as last year. I think we'll split with them. And the question is, are we going to beat them at their ground, or are we going to beat them at Foxborough?
But this is the thing, right? So we beat them in Buffalo last year, but then they beat us in Foxborough. So, I mean, I certainly can see us. I can see us winning this game. I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility. I think if you look at Buffalo this year, are they the same Buffalo? They've lost pieces. I wasn't too bothered about their offseason in terms of I thought they added some decent players. I thought they drafted reasonably well. I think the biggest thing for Buffalo is offensive line and head coach, because I'm just not convinced that Joe Brady was the right man for the job there. And their offensive line got ravaged last season, and they've just lost their top interior lineman as well in David Edwards. Yeah. So I would be concerned about those two things in particular.
I would go more for the fact that, with now Brady in charge as the head coach, I felt like after 6 years of them trying to get to a Super Bowl, let alone win one, I feel like at that point, you saw the players after the Denver game. They were in tears. Josh Allen was in tears at the podium saying, what more have we got to do? And in the end, and there is a saying, the buck stops at the manager or the buck stops with the head coach. And at some point, they just looked at Sean McDermott and gone, thank you for your time, but you can't take us over the line. You can't get us over the hump. Now is Brady going to do it? Now is Brady going to end up doing it? I don't know. He knows Josh Allen well enough. He was the offensive coordinator when McDermott was still in charge. So there is some continuity to it. But this is a big job to take on. But the thing is, it's going to be Josh Allen running this offense.
I don't disagree about Sean McDermott. Like, he's had plenty of time and didn't get them over the hump. But I think it's the man you've replaced him with an internal hire. I just didn't think that was the right move for Buffalo. When you had some names on the market that could have gone in there and made a big difference. You know, there were a couple of big defensive names knocking around. And then you look at like Kubiak, obviously going to the Raiders, like that guy who was a really good offensive coach, you know, going to a Raiders team who needed a turnaround. But if you put Clint Kubiak with Josh Allen, that could have translated a lot better.
Oh, no.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's from a Buffalo perspective. But that for me is a big question mark, is Joe Brady. I'm just not sure it was the right hire. But look, Buffalo, again, we talk about benchmarks. Buffalo will still be fairly decent, right? And when I was going through these games earlier on, I did have this down as a loss, right? Because I'm sure they're going to want to beat us first big rivalry game in that stadium. You know, the May Allen rivalry, or you know, the clashes twice a year are gonna be for the foreseeable future. And it's gonna become like the new Brady and Peyton, isn't it? Really, like, you know, these two are gonna show off twice a year. So, like, yeah, I think, you know, we more often than not, I think you might see the team split most years. There'll be the odd occasion where one of these two teams goes 2-0, but I'll have a splitting with Buffalo again this year, and I'll have them.
So you go with them winning at home. Okay, all right, that's fair enough then. So after
but it's 4 weeks, out of the realms that we win this, like, you know. So.
I mean, if we go 3-1 in the first 4 weeks, then people are like, "Oh shit, hang on, this was meant to be the hard schedule. This was meant to be the Patriots falling off because they had the cupcake schedule last year." Don't worry, we'll get into the Chargers. We're going to get into the Chargers later on.
But yeah, you look at the two games that come up after this stretch. If you're 3-1 after 4 games, and then you get the next 2 games.
You are laughing, and then everyone in the AFC is legitimately shitting themselves because it's like, oh no, what's going on? Anyway, we're into week 5. The Raiders coming back to Foxborough with their fluky win last season in week 1. Let's call it what it was. It was a fluke. It was a fluke because they won 2 games. They only won 1 game after that the entire season. So, but we did talk about Clint Kubiak being the head coach of the Raiders. They now have Fernando Mendoza, the #1 overall pick. They've got a very good running back in Ashton Genty. They've got some good weapons. Obviously, the tight end is a huge problem. Defensively, I always think the Raiders just lack defensively.
I mean, last year their defense was awful, right? But they've added a lot of pieces to it this offseason. Like, you look at what they did in free agency, you know, add in the 2 Georgia linebackers back again in the Kobe Dean and the other one whose name completely escapes me from the Packers. What was his name? Quay Walker. That was it.
Quay Walker. That was it.
So, yeah, getting them 2 back together. They put a lot of emphasis into spending money on defense. They had a lot of salary cap space. So they've done that. I would expect their defense to be a lot more competitive and keep them in games to a certain extent this year. The one concern I do have about their defensive side of the ball is I don't think they have a good #1 corner. I think you can get at them at corner. I think elsewhere, linebacker looks strong. They can generate a pass rush. Safeties are young and improving, but it's just at corner where I think there's a vulnerability. But then you flip onto the offensive side of the ball. You obviously highlighted Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers, two massive danger men, right? Obviously, Bowers is one of the best tight ends in the league. Genty had great flashes last year, even behind a really bad offensive line, which should be better, although the right side of it is still a massive question. I think that, again, though, there's two kind of major question marks about the Raiders heading into this one is, do we see Fernando Mendoza in this game, or is it still Kirk Cousins playing? Because I think there's a strong possibility that we don't see Mendoza for a while, and that might be smart considering, what's around him. And with Brady's influence, and he's always been saying that he definitely favors a young QB sitting for a while. So it could be Kirk Cousins. And the second thing is, yes, they have Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty, but what the hell do they have at wide receiver? You're talking about the starting three receivers of the Raiders being Jack Besh, Jalen Naylor, and Trey Tucker, who are all wide receiver threes at best. Now, I liked Jack Besh coming out of the draft last year, but always thought he was more of a complementary piece rather than a true number one. They don't have any receivers that make you think, wow, this is going to be difficult. I would genuinely double Brock Bowers on 90+% of the plays. Just beat us with another guy.
Yeah, you bracket him. So, yeah. So are we saying, well, are we going to get our revenge?
This is a win. This is a win.
Yeah. Well, we said that last year, didn't we? Look how that turned out.
We did, but I think if we'd have played the Raiders later in the season, or even maybe 4 weeks into the season, we'd have poleaxed them. So I don't anywhere near us in this game.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're 3-2 then. Okay. And then we move into week 6. We're still at home, which means the biannual teabagging. We play the Jets. No offense to the talking balls over there, but I don't care. This is the biannual teabagging game when you have to come to Foxborough.
Yeah.
As much as they've done well in the draft, I could give you a statistic where since 2017, they've had 9 to 10 top 10 picks since 2017. And yet in all that time, the biggest amount of wins have been able to conjure out of any of those years is 7.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I do think the Jets can keep it competitive purely based on what they've added on defense, both in free agency and the draft. They've gone from having one of the worst defenses in the NFL, who looked like they downed tools last year at the end of the season, and we're showing a lack of effort. And personally, I think that should have got Aaron Glenn fired, because if your players are down in tools late in the season, that is not a good sign of culture. But they've added a lot. Obviously didn't have an interception last year, but you look at what they've got. Obviously drafting Bailey and adding Tavondre Sweat, Demario Davis in there for a bit of leadership, Minka Fitzpatrick, D'Angelo Pons. They've added some big players to that defense. So I think they can keep it competitive. They've obviously got weapons on offense now with Garrett Wilson, Omar Cooper Jr., and Kenyon Sadiq and Breece Hall. Again, it comes down to head coach and quarterback. Now, Geno Smith somehow is 2-0 against us in the last 2 games, but he's just not good, and he will hold the team back. I would not be surprised if at some point in the season they go, sod it, let's just throw Cade Klubnik out there and see how he does. So, again, I would expect us to beat the Jets twice, but I think that they can definitely make it competitive. I don't see any real blowouts. I just think that with what they've got defensively, they can keep the score down. If they lean on Breece Hall and make it simple with the pass catching weapons they've got, they can score points. But I just don't think they have the quarterback quality or the head coach. Really, I just have no confidence in Aaron Glenn to really do that well. This seems to me I don't know if the Jets are going to be picking top 3 in the draft or whatever, but they seem to me maybe a 6 or 7 win team at most. 6 wins, picking probably at the back end of the top 10. that seems about right for where they are right now.
Yeah, so we're winning that game 4-2.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're winning that game going 4-2 then. Week 7, short turnaround, Thursday night football at the Bears. I'm looking forward to this game. Drake May versus Caleb Williams. That's going to be a fireworks display. That's going to be a fireworks display.
And should be better than the last 2 times these two squared off, right? Because when they were both rookies, both teams obviously had a difficult season, and they were rookies and still, far from developing. But now that they're going into year 3, and the teams have both improved, this should be a real spectacle. We were saying at the back end of last season, if it could somehow be a Bears Patriots Super Bowl, the neutrals would have been all over it, because it would have been absolute fireworks.
It would have been fireworks, yeah.
I think this is a true coin flip, like legitimately a true coin flip, because I feel like both teams, you could make a strong case for winning this game. They've got some great weapons. They've got some good pieces on defense, but as have we, right? I think this will be a really close game that could go either way. And it's really, really difficult to call at this stage, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think it'll be really entertaining, really close. 2 young, star QBs dueling it out. And yeah, it's good that it's in prime time.
Indeed. I'm looking forward to this game so much, but they've got a lot of weapons to deal with. We've got one of the best secondaries, but my God, we're going to have to be on our P's and Q's in that game to actually have any chance of winning. So you're going coin flip, but are you sided to a win or a loss on that one for the Bears?
Well, I was going through this earlier. Like, I'll put it down. I'll put it down as a narrow loss for now, because I feel like if I get a bit carried away saying, yeah, we'll win that one, we'll end up having a ridiculous record again. And like, if we do that 2 years in a row, that is just unprecedented. So like, we do, we do need, I say need to, but we probably will lose more games than we lost last year. And what's crazy about that is we may be a better team, but just because of we're playing better teams, and we obviously rode the crest of the wave last year with the momentum and things like that. So yeah, I feel like this could be a narrow loss, but if you told me the Patriots won this game, would not be surprised. I think it will be a really, really close game.
I think if we won that game, that'd be a huge statement. That would be a huge statement going into Soldier Field and getting a win over the Bears, especially with this type of offense, especially beating freaking Ben Johnson as well. But you're going for a loss, yeah?
Yeah, I'll go for that for now.
I don't want to get greedy. I think this will be a loss, a tight one. I'm going to say we're going to lose by a field goal. We're going to lose by a field goal, I think. So that will put us at 4-3. So still not the be all and end all. We'll do all right. Then we're on the road to the Dolphins, who are shite.
Yeah.
Who do they have?
Yeah. Don't need to spend a lot of time on this one. This is one of the worst teams in the NFL this year.
Delusional patience saying I'm going to say win versus Chicago. I think Bayard is the difference. Former Bear.
That'd be nice if he picks off Caleb Williams. I don't dislike it. I certainly think we've got a chance to win, and I think we can beat Chicago. It'll just be a duel, right? It'll be a case of who makes the least mistakes, who can make the most plays. I feel like this game might be quite similar to their playoff game against the Rams, where it goes like right down to the wire, and you see a couple of like unbelievable moments where either Caleb Williams or Drake May does something absolutely ridiculous to win the game or tie the game or whatever. Like, yeah, it'll be really good to watch. But onto the Dolphins, yeah, they're toilet.
They're shy. Even though we're going to be down, even though we're going to them in November, it's not going to be a fair match.
Yeah,
who is their quarterback anyway?
Malik Willis.
He's all right.
The thing is that they're limited, right? Like they've obviously got Devon Achane is a fantastic back, and they drafted Caden Proctor to try and reinforce that offensive line, which overall that offensive line doesn't look too bad on paper. the concern for them is just like the pass catching talent. You know, I really liked Chris Bell coming out of the draft, but you're asking a third round rookie coming off a torn ACL to be your wide receiver one. That's not easy. You know, they don't have a lot of the tight end position. And then you look on the defensive side of the ball, and outside of, you know, their first round pick last year, Kenneth Grant, and they've got Zach Sealer up front with Chop Robinson. You've got Jacob Rodriguez alongside Jordan Brooks.
Yeah, that pissed me off when they drafted
that was
Rodriguez.
that's a nice linebacker tandem, but I think they've got so many holes on that defense as well, and I feel like they're going to be playing from behind a lot, which is obviously going to affect Devon Achane. And you're asking Malik Willis to try and, you know, pull them from behind with not a lot of receiving talent. I just feel like they're going to be in for a really difficult year. But look, they know that. I think Jeff Hafley's taken that job well, knowing that it's going to be a multi-year rebuild. They basically cast off a load of players and took an enormous cap hit to offset all those wages and get them off the roster because they wanted to reset and rebuild for the future. So they will know that this year is a bit of a surrender year, if you like. And once those cap hits start to reduce, they can then start to, you know, rebuild that roster. But for the time being, I think it's going to be a really difficult time for Miami. And yeah, like Grandizer just said, they will expect not to be very good. And I think they will have eyes on the top end of the draft.
Athlete and the GM, Jez. Okay, fair enough. So we go for the win there. So that basically sits us 5-3. So we're doing all right. Now, this is the one I'm very excited for. At home to the Packers.
Yeah,
I think I'm on the same line as you with the Bears. I think this is another coin toss game. Ooh, what's happened here? Okay.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that one because I think the Packers are one of the great pretenders in the NFL. And like, look, they are one of the NFL's most historic franchises, and you know, you respect them and all their traditions and what they stand for, and being a fan-owned team and been around for over 100 years, and you know, they'll always be an iconic team. But the reality is that team just isn't very good. You know, the Packers. This is a perfectly timed question from Delusional Patriots fan. The Packers offense, they have a slightly above average quarterback in Jordan Love. Not going to say he's bad, but I think he's kind of just above average. I think their weapons are all pretty mediocre, aside from Tucker Kraft, who I really like as a tight end. Josh Jacobs is a good back, but their offensive line is in disarray. Like, they lost Rasheed Walker, who was their starting left tackle last season. Elton Jenkins, who's been one of their best offensive linemen for the last few years, has left in free agency. The only offensive lineman that you would have any confidence in being decent this year is Zach Tom. Zach Tom is a good right tackle. So I think they will struggle offensively. You then flip to the defensive side of the ball, and yes, look, Micah Parsons is phenomenal. Xavier McKinney is fantastic. Edgerrin Cooper is great. But they've also got a lot of holes. You know, Rashawn Gary has left. They've lost players in the interior of the defensive line. They don't really have an awful lot of corner. Like, I just look at this Packers team. We mentioned Quay Walker leaving as well. I just don't think this Packers team is going to be that great this year. I feel like they're going to be another team that's going to float around about 7 wins. I think there is a real possibility, and this might sound like a bit of a bold shout, I think there is a real possibility they finish last in their division, but that will all hinge on Minnesota's quarterback situation. Because if Minnesota get even average quarterback play this year, they will finish above the Packers because they have better players on both sides of the ball. So, yeah, I think we'll beat the Packers. Brady's calling this game as well for Fox. We're at home, and I just don't think they've got enough to beat us in Foxborough. And Romeo Doubs will score a touchdown.
Romeo Doubs will get his revenge. Doubs will get his revenge. So after 9 wins, we're sitting at 6-3.
6-3, yeah.
We're sitting at 6-3 after 9 wins. Okay, fair enough. That looks good so far. That looks very, very good. However, then we move on to the next game. And my keyboard is going to get thrown out the window in a minute. I swear to God. Week 10, the Pats on the road again. Only this time we're off to a neutral venue because we are facing the Detroit Lions in Munich.
Yeah.
Again, another great matchup. Another great matchup.
Yeah, it is. This is great. We spoke about this in the chat the other night. I do think that this international slate of games is really solid, and this is a real treat for the Lions. It's not for the Lions, for the German fans, because we've been quite critical of the London games, and I even think the London games are better this year, even though nobody wants to see Jacksonville twice. But for Germany to get there as their one and only game, you get the Detroit Lions versus the New England Patriots, factoring in the two fan bases, factoring in how good these teams both are, and the fact that they've both got high-powered offenses. This should be a tremendous game.
And they both have a head coach that's full of piss and vinegar.
Yeah, like this should be really, really good. I think like the difference is going to be whose defense plays better, right? Because I think both offenses can absolutely like. I've been saying for a while now. I really like the Lions because when they're fully healthy, they can put 40 points on any team in the NFL. With what they've got with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams going over the top, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield, a good offensive line, and Jared Goff, who knows how to get the ball out and make big-time throws. The reason why the Lions faltered last year is because of injuries. So Sam Laporta got injured down the stretch last year. They had injuries on the offensive line. They had injuries, like an abundance of injuries on defense. And as a result, the Lions petered out and ended up, having a bit of a disappointing season. But providing they're fully healthy, I think on their day, they're one of the best teams in the NFL, as are we. This is a banger, absolute banger. And Vrabel versus Campbell in the Grit Bowl. Yeah, this is great. I really like this. Obviously, we're hoping to get out there to Munich for this. It's going to be a bit of a gauntlet for me because as things stand, I'm going to be coming back from Canada earlier that week and end up going from London to Vancouver, back to London to Munich and back. It's going to be a bit of a slog, but this is a banging game, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I can't wait for this either. It's going to be absolutely quality. I have seen the Pats play twice over on these shores, and I have never seen them win. This has got to be third time lucky. It's got to be third time lucky. I am not going back to England with an 0-3 record of seeing the Patriots. I'll become a fucking jinx because I will not like it one little bit.
I think again, this is a coin flip game, just like Chicago, right? I mean, obviously, it makes a massive difference that it's in Munich in a neutral stadium rather than at Ford Field. So I think that's an element. But yeah, it's still a really tough game. Let's not beat around the bush. This is still a really tough game. I kind of have this as a coin flip. I think I marked it again as a narrow loss. But again, I'll say if we were to win this game, would not shock me. I think we've got a good chance to win it. But it's one of them 50-50 games on the schedule that you think could go either way.
Yeah, definitely could go either way. So what are you going to go for?
Well, as you're going, Karl, we're probably going to lose. So I'm going to put it down as a loss.
Oh, fuck you. Oh, no. I can't put a loss down because that will completely derail everything that's going to happen next. Nah, fuck it. We're going to beat the Lions. I'm going to beat the Lions. So we're going to go separately. Let's just go through the comments quickly before we carry on because there's a lot building up here. Also, to see TJ House Manzed on the Speakeasy Pod said Romeo dubs over DJ Moore.
Okay. I mean, at this stage of their careers, obviously Dubs is 3 years younger than DJ Moore. I mean, they're different players, very different players, but yeah, like I don't think DJ Moore is a true one, to be honest. I mean, obviously going to Buffalo, he's going to be expected to be the one, and we'll have some moments, but yeah, we'll see. Obviously, the chances are Romeo Doubs is going to be our number 2, right? Because if AJ Brown is coming in, then he's the wide receiver 1. So
Yeah, 100%.
we'll see. I think it's a really interesting one. It's just how we stop what they've got on offense in this Lions game.
Lads, you don't have to be sweet to the Lions because I moderate for Raw the Lions UK. It is kind of you though.
I just like the Lions in terms of watching them, right? As a general NFL fan, they are good to watch.
They're very good to watch. They're very good to watch. They've always been the franchise of eternal irrelevance. So up until the point Dan Campbell actually came in through the door and changed the entire culture. And that Ford Field, when it is rocking, it is a loud place to go. So I'm actually very pleased that we're playing in Munich and not at Ford Field, because that would have been a nasty game. I was going to ask how you feel about the Lions corners. They're constantly injured all the time, so that's why we haven't spoken about
it. They've got depth there, but they can't keep them fit. I mean, I like Terrion Arnold coming out of the draft. Obviously, he's a smaller corner. I don't know whether you want to really class him as a corner, but their nickel, Brian Burns, is excellent. But they just, they've got a lot of guys who are pretty solid, like that are good caliber NFL corners, but they just can't stay healthy, and they end up trotting out a lot of backups out there that just end up getting exposed. And I think as well, like sometimes what's not helped them is the fact that they've played so many games in recent years where their entire pass rush has hinged on Aiden Hutchinson. And if he can't get home, they don't really generate a lot up front, which then makes it trickier for the corners to cover. So like they need to be a bit better up front outside of Aiden Hutchinson. But they've still got more than enough to be a dangerous defense.
Yeah, they still definitely have more than enough. This is it for the Lions. Their Super Bowl window is closing. They have had to have a smashing draft, and it was so from what most have said.
Yeah, I mean, Blake Miller fits the mold massively as a Lion. He fits in. Yeah. He's a perfect fit for Dan Campbell. And I had him as like the most, one of the most ready tackles in the draft. So he'll slot in at right tackle. Yeah, I think after that stage, when you after Blake Miller, I can see what people are saying. It was very so-so. Like there was no real names that you went, oh, the Lions got them. Oh, that was good. But their roster's pretty loaded anyway, and they were solid in free agency. So I don't have concerns about them.
Yeah. Okay. So week 11 is our bye week, obviously. And then the following week, November 29th, we are on the road to Liquid LA as we face the Chargers. Now, the Chargers have got a very, very good PR people. They've got a very good PR program. Their schedule release has always been top-notch. Always been top-notch. Every year I can think of. However, this year they took it a bit too far by basically throwing digs at calling us cupcakes, despite the fact we beat your ass in the wildcard round by multiple scores, but whatever. You threw digs regarding the Mike Vrabel situation. If I'm going to say this right now, I know under the banner, the Across the Pond Network banner, and we do have a Chargers one. Little message to you, mate. If your team would concentrate more on winning Super Bowls in the same way you concentrate on your PR for your scheduling, you'd have more Super Bowls than us and the Steelers combined. But unfortunately, you have a fear and you are allergic to success and legitimacy because you still don't even own your fucking stadium. So, yeah.
Yeah, look, the Chargers are a good team. They've got good pieces on that roster, but they're also not a team that strikes a lot of fear into you in the sense of like they've got a lot of good players, but there's no one there that is kind of like pure domination, if you like. So if you look at that roster, like the two tackles, good. but obviously they didn't play against us in the divisional round, but they're two excellent tackles. Herbert is good to a certain extent, more than the regular season. He hasn't managed to do that well in the playoffs, though. You look at that receiving core, it's all right. Like, I think McConkey's the most talented of them all, but like, it's not bad. Obviously, they've got Gadsden and now David Njoku at tight end, which is a nice, tight end duo, and Charlie Kohler as the third tight end. That's pretty good. Hampton in the backfield, not too bad. Be interesting to see what he can do in year two as a young player who was injured for a lot of last season. And they've got some pieces on defense, but I just kind of think this Chargers team are about a 10 or 11 win team, which is not a bad thing. But I feel like they will beat bad teams and mediocre teams, and probably get beat by most of the good teams they face. That's kind of how I feel about them. Obviously last year in the playoff game, yes, they got a lot of pressure on us. Oweh and Mack, and caused us a lot of problems, and got to Drake May. But if we've got a better O-line, I just think overall we're better than them, and ultimately we wrecked them. And a lot will be said about that offensive line that Herbert was playing behind. Yes, they were down to like their fourth and fifth string offensive linemen, but we still absolutely wrecked them. And look, they have probably one of the worst home fields in the NFL. They just don't have that many fans in that stadium. Most people in LA are Rams fans, so I don't think the home field advantage is going to be there. I think Patriots fans travel really well. So I'm going to have this as a win. I think we're just better than the Chargers, but I think they can play us close.
You've got this as a win. So even though I've chatted a lot of shit, I'm actually saying this as a loss because it's come off a bye week. And we never do well coming off a bye week. So
Phil Perry also had this down as a loss, but I disagree. I just think when you look at we'll be 12 weeks into the season. The Chargers will have 27 players on IR by then, like they do every year. So I think overall, when we're that far into the season, I just think we'll be going along nicely. And I think overall, if you match the two teams up, we're better than them.
Yeah, definitely. Commented by Grandizer, so they were saying that the Pats cheated. They always get the call since Brady was the Pats QB. They said, pardon me, they said it's not right. The bloody fix is always in. Your thoughts, lads? You'll nuance this one.
Yeah, I mean, they're always going to point fingers, right? But I mean, look, they have been incredibly unlucky, like with things that have happened. To lose to Pro Bowl caliber offensive linemen and basically put a load of turnstiles and colanders in front of Justin Herbert last year in the playoffs was obviously a bit of a killer. But to be honest with you, like, I think if you look back at that game between us and the Chargers, even if Alt and Slater would have played, I still think we'd have won. So yeah, they're just gonna be about a 10-win team. I do think they've got a chance to finish second in that division. I don't think they'll win it. But yeah, I just think overall we're better.
Okay. So you got us down for a win. I've got us down for a loss. So I've got them at 7-4. You've got them at 8-3. So men, moving into week 13, the Bills then come back to us. Now we said that we will lose at their new place, at their new lavatory seat, but we'd get our comfort. We'd get
8-4, by the way.
Well, you got 8-4.
Because I had us losing to the Lions, didn't I?
Oh, okay, yeah. So you said we're on the same ballpark then. So we're sitting at 8-4 right now. Okay, fair enough. So we're sitting at 8-4. Bills at home. We did say we
said we're expecting to split. I think it will be the case. I don't know which way round it will be. Obviously, last season, as we said, we both won in each other's ground. I've obviously got us both winning our home games. So I think, again, similar to the first one, closely played, two really good quarterbacks playing off against each other. But I think we'll take the home game this time around and they'll beat us at their place.
So that sits us at 9 wins already.
Yeah, so 9-4 for me so far.
So 9-4 for you, 9-4 for me so far. Okay, fair enough. We're moving further down. Week 14, Minnesota.
Interesting game, this.
Interesting game. They got shit quarterbacks. Their line is actually pretty decent when you think about it. And they still got Justin Jefferson at receiver. They've still got... Is Jordan Addison still there or has he left?
Yeah, so yeah, obviously the wide receiver trio of Jefferson, Addison, and Jawan Jennings, pretty good. That's a pretty good receiver trio. Hawkinson at tight end. I think you can ask questions about the running back situation because I just don't think that Aaron Jones is that good anymore. He's had so many injuries. He's, I think they could do a lot better there. The offensive line is pretty good. Defense obviously excellent. Massive Brian Flores fan. I think the way he calls defense is awesome, and I was really actually disappointed for him that he didn't get a head coaching job because I think he deserved one. But ultimately, it comes down to the quarterback play for the Minnesota Vikings, and I think Kyler Murray will win the job because I think JJ McCarthy isn't very good. And although Kyler Murray does have his kind of peaks and troughs, I think he's shown enough in his NFL career to suggest that he is at least a starting caliber NFL quarterback. But again, coming on the road to us in New England, I just don't see the Vikings having enough to win that. So I will take us to take that at home to the Vikings.
Yeah, I do feel sorry for Minnesota, but they're in a world of issues.
Well, I think they'll be better with Kyler Murray because I think JJ McCarthy was that bad last year, and then when he was out, they were trying out the ghost of Carson Wentz and Max Brosma. Like, just that was just not good. For all Kyler Murray's faults and stuff, he has still had some good games in the NFL, some good moments and good performances. So I do think that's an upgrade at the QB position. It's a redemption story for him on a one-year deal. And I think he'll make them more competitive. So, I don't think they'll be as bad as they were last year, but I'd still fancy us to take this one.
So we've got that. So that's a win there for us. Then, so now we're sitting at 9-4.
10-4.
9 because you including the bye week.
Well, we were 9-4 before this one, so we've gone 10-4.
9,
now.
10, and 12. No, we've only played 13 games.
Well, how many we got left after this? Only 4 games.
4. Yeah, that's 17 games. A 17-game season.
Right. Yeah, but that's if we've only got 4 games left.
Yeah, that means the best we could go is 13-4.
Well, hang on a second. Where have we gone wrong here?
You've gone wrong somewhere. I haven't. Right, let me just go through. Right, I've gone for Seattle with a loss. It's 0-1. Steelers win. Sorry about this, chat and people that are listening here. Steelers at home, I've got them winning 1-1. Jags on the road, beaten them. That's 2-1. Lost to the Bills 2-2. Beat the Raiders and Jets. That's 3-2 and then 4-2. Lose to the Bears 4-3. Beat the Dolphins 5-3. Beat the Packers 6-3. Beat the Lions 7-3. Then we have the bye. Chargers, I got a loss at 7-4. We beat the Bills at 8-4, and then we beat the Vikings at 9-4.
Right. Okay. Moving on. It's 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, shut up! It's early.
Anyway, we're beating Minnesota.
Okay, we're beating Minnesota. We're beating the Vikings. Okay, fair enough. Then. So then next on the docket, again, another amazing matchup we got coming up. One, my keyboard decides to actually want to. We're playing the Chiefs on the road. I'll get the banner up in a minute, but we're playing the Chiefs on the road. How good are the Chiefs going to actually be?
So I think that's very hard to say, but obviously with this game being in week 15, you would think that Patrick Mahomes is going to be fully healthy by then. Obviously, picking up Kenny Walker, that will help their running game massively because they didn't really have one last year. I still think they've got question marks over that offensive line. And in terms of the receiver position as well, do they really have a lot there? I don't know. Obviously, Rashee Rice has had his legal troubles. Xavier Worthy went missing last year. Travis Kelce is obviously very long in the tooth now. So I think, that they might struggle in terms of the passing game. I think Mahomes is going to have to get that going. I think they've got potentially some holes on defense, although I think they drafted well on that side of the ball. Now, if this game was in New England, or if this game was on, say, 6 p.m. or 9:25 UK time, so 1 p.m. 4:25 US, I would fancy us. However, Monday Night Football under the lights at Arrowhead is not a good environment to be going into, especially this late in the season where playoff implications start to set in. And if Mahomes is fully healthy by then, that will be incredibly tricky to win on the road at Arrowhead that late in the season on a Monday night primetime game. So I will have us being beaten by the Chiefs here.
Okay,
but
yeah,
I think,
same.
again, we can play them close.
But 9-5. So that sits in at 9-5. So we're still in a pretty good. We're still in a pretty good position then. When you think about it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's solid.
Okay, so then we move into week 6. Okay, so we move into week 16. And this time I will not call them the biannual teabagging because when we do go to MetLife Stadium, it's always a tricky place. So the Jets in week 16, they'll be dead and buried by the time we play them.
Yeah, win.
So that's a win. That's 10 wins. That's fringe wild card. Fringe wild card as it currently stands. So then you're way too quick for me for this already. So we're just going to move on straight away. And
well,
then
we
have
time on it. Like, I don't think the Jets will be in contention at that stage in the season, and we will have our sights set potentially on the division and beyond. So yeah, I think we'll take that one.
Week 17 versus the Broncos. The rematch of the AFC Championship. Oh wow.
It's a frisky one, obviously, different environment. Unless there's another enormous blizzard, then I don't think we're going to see a similar game script to last time. Obviously, this one is in New England, which is a completely different environment to Mile High. That you're not factoring in the altitude and the crowd there. So yeah, this will be another tough game. Again, it'll be a battle of defense. Obviously, you'd think that Bo Nix is probably going to be fully healthy then as well. So that obviously gives them a different option. Obviously, they've got Jalen Waddle now at receiver. So that's obviously upgraded their offense. So again, a really tough game, and one that you could definitely put down as a coin flip. However, I will have us taking this one. I think if this was at Mile High, I think I would probably lean Broncos, but I will go with New England in this one.
Okay, so then finally leaving off is the final game is against the Dolphins, who don't do well at all during week 18 because it's freezing cold in January.
Yeah, the fish will be in the freezer with all the other bird's eye products at this point. They'll be wanting to get into the off season. If we think that Miami are going to struggle as badly as they will this year, if they're going to be picking top 2 or 3 in the draft, they're going to be eyeing who they're going to be taking at the top end of the draft, right? That's going to be the priority for them in week 18. They're going to have eyes on the off season and what they need to do to rebuild that roster. And just like last year when we played Miami in the final game of the season, where we wanted to obviously seal seeding. Potentially, obviously, we didn't get the number 1 seed, but we were still in the race for it. And we needed to win for that. And Miami were playing for nothing. I just think this will be, a pretty straightforward. New England will just roll them over in Foxborough in January. It'll be cold. And I think you'll see maybe the game be out of sight by halftime. And then you'll see, as you called him the other night, Danny DeVito taking the offense in the
Tommy
second
DeVito. Half. Tommy DeVito. I'll get the name right. Oh, God, I ain't gonna lift that down either. Okay, so after all that, the record stands of him. You and I both got the same record here.
12-5. Yeah.
So it's over 10 wins. The over-under for us is 10.5 wins.
Yeah. So I think the official betting line is 9.5, isn't it, on the Vegas line?
Okay.
So like over that, yeah. I think there's quite a bit of variance. We've spoken about some coin flip games. I think there could be a way that we win 10. Like we could finish at 10 because we've favored the Patriots in a couple of coin flip games. But equally on the flip side to that, if them other games go our way, then we could see ourselves at 13 or 14 again. We won 14 games last year. I don't expect that to happen again with a tougher schedule. But I feel obviously I've gone 12-5, But I feel like the Patriots have a real realistic shot of winning 11 or 12 games as as a fair prediction. I think there are some people that think we're going to drop off massively. I don't see that. But I think if we come through the season at 11-6 or 12-5, whilst that might not be enough for the number one seed, I still think that's a pretty good season, all things considered, with the tougher schedule. So, yeah, I would be happy with that.
I think it's whoever comes out of the AFC North has got the easiest schedule. I think Cincinnati have got one of the easiest schedules. They've probably got the third easiest schedule in the NFL, Cincinnati. So they could have the potentiality of maybe getting number one seed. Chiefs have got an easy slate to start, but then it gets a lot harder as the season goes along. We'll have to see. If New England wins 9 or 8 games, then draft a good wide receiver. People will say we tanked. Okay, whatever. If New England win 12 games, we cheated. Yeah, probably what be the narrative. That's probably what will be the narrative.
There was a lot of moving goalposts at the end of last season, but I think if we come out of this,
I think if we come out of this with 11 or 12 wins, they can't say shit. They can't say shit.
We're still going to be a playoff team, and like I said earlier, we could be a better team overall this year. We could have a better roster and the overall quality of our team could be better. But because we're playing tougher teams and, certain situations like having to travel to Germany for a game and on the road at Kansas City on a Monday night, we might end up losing more games this year than we did last year. But also, I think you got to remember as well, as I said, we rode the crest of the wave last season and we did win 14 games, which, to win 14 games out of 17 in an NFL season is ridiculous. That was top tier stuff. So are we going to repeat that? Probably not. But I still think 12 wins would be a fantastic season. We'll be in the playoffs and we'll be right there as a contender.
Yeah, I just want people to have the same sort of energy when the Saints and the Browns got the 2 easy schedules in the NFL. And let's see how they get on. Because if they fail to make the postseason, I'll go, well, what's the excuse then? What's the excuse then? That's where I go. Grandmaster put in a question here. There's one question in before we get on out of here. Which games do you see as trap games for the Pats?
I don't know if there's any teams on the roster, on the schedule that we would be really favored in that we could slip up against. I don't see us losing to the Dolphins, the Jets, the Raiders, anyone like that. I would say just the coin flip games, right? The Chicagos, the Detroit Lions, maybe you put the Packers in there. I mean, I still think we'll beat the Packers, but the Vikings, teams that are capable of putting in good performances and getting results. Minnesota's defense and their receiver trio will carry them a certain way. So just games like that you could make an argument that they're coin flips for. But I think when it comes to the games that you'd expect New England to win, I don't really see anyone there tripping us up, to be honest. Yeah,
I don't see that at all. Okay.
Well, we are getting floods of questions coming in here.
We are getting floods of questions coming in. Come on, guys. I'm really excited to see Henderson in his second year with Josh McDaniels. I'm looking forward to see Henderson better offensive line. We've got the best fullback in the game. Let's see what he can do. Let's see what Henderson can do.
Like I said, there's a lot of emphasis been put on helping that running game. I think with that improvement on the offensive line, with Reggie Gilliam coming in, with Julian Hill coming in, who was an excellent blocking tight end for Miami, opened a lot of holes for Devon Achane. I feel like that's going to benefit TreVeyon Henderson massively. I'll give you a little bit of tiny spoiler for Forged in Foxborough. One thing that really caught my eye, and actually I watched Julian Hill's press conference the other day. That guy has got an edge about him. He has got something there where he seems like although very respectful and polite off the field, he seems like he could be a bit of a bastard on the field, judging by some of the things he was saying. And the thing that stands out to me from the Forged in Foxborough episode, he held up his jersey for the first time and was like, I'm lost for words. It feels like a responsibility even looking at this. And I loved that quote. because he understands that he's in one of the most successful organizations in the NFL and he's going to have to earn it. And I really like that. I feel like this guy is going to bust his balls to try and perform for us. So I'm excited for that and what he can do for the running game.
I want football season to start literally in the next week now, because I think we're getting a bit giddy now, all that sort of thing. Question, lads, with predictions, do you have your Pats MVP of this season? Defensive MVP, if not defensive MVP, as Pats Rookie of the Year? Well, MVP, I think you have to go. I think MVP, you have to go with Drake May, obviously, clearly, yeah.
Defensive outside of Drake May, I think if all goes well with the running game, Travion Henderson could have a monster season. I genuinely if it's all being set up for him to have success. If he doesn't succeed with everything that's being put in place for him to succeed, then that's obviously a really disappointing. So I will go with Henderson. Outside of May, I'll go with Henderson. Defensive MVP. Do you know what? I think Kevin Byard's going to play a really important role this year. I really do. I think he was an excellent signing, and he's going to be the captain of that secondary. So I'll probably go with Byard, and then Rookie of the Year. That's a tough one because I don't think we'll get a lot of contribution out of them early on. But I guess the safest pick there is Akers.
Yeah. Akers is probably the. So mine is obviously Drake May as Pat's MVP, obviously. Defensive MVP. Defensive MVP. Give me Milton Williams. He was brilliant for us last year. No one could run the ball when he was on the line. No one could run the ball, apart from the Super Bowl. But Kenneth Walker is just a Le'Veon Bell hybrid running back. And then Rookie of the Year. I probably would have to go. I would love to go with Eli Raridan. I would love to go with Eli Raridan, but I don't think he's going to see us. I think he will get a fair few snaps, but I don't. Yeah, I'm going to go
because he's entering the season. It's the third time.
I'm going to go the Yakins. The only rookie that could absolutely bowl us over, from what I can gather, would be the right tackle who we took in the 6th or 7th round. The big dude. Crownover. Yeah. Let's just say, for example, knock on wood here, Morgan Moses go down with a season-ending injury, and Crownover steps in and actually freaking does an amazing job. Then maybe you could look at that and go, yeah, he could be.
I would say that's unlikely because if Morgan Moses gets injured, Caleb Lomu's playing right tackle. So I think you'd end up in a situation where let's just go
Caleb Lomu then. Let's go with Caleb Lomu.
Yeah. I'll ask a question to you, Karl, and to everyone watching along that's sending in questions. I really appreciate them all. How many sacks does Gabe Akers have as a rookie? I'm gonna throw out there straight away, and I'm gonna say he has 5, which is not a very high amount, but considering he's going to be a rotational pass rusher to start with behind Jones and Landry, I feel like obviously rookies take a little bit of adjusting to the NFL. And Williams and Barmore are going to get some too. So I feel like if you put the bar at 5, I think that's quite reasonable for a 2nd round rookie to get. And if he gets more than that, brilliant. He could quite easily get 7 or 8, not 9, but I think maybe 5.
Yeah. I was going to say 6.
Yeah. I think that's about right.
Yeah. I was going to say a 6, yeah. If Milton is getting his last year production, Barmore needs to be getting the sacks. Yeah, that is very true. Barmore could be getting more sacks on there for that. So, yeah. Okay.
We've got someone predicting 10 sacks for Gabe Akers. I think as a rookie. He'd be in the conversation for Defensive Rookie of the Year if he gets double-digit sacks.
He's called Delusional Patriots fan for a reason. That's why.
I would love to see it.
No offense, DP. No offense.
He's probably one of them where he's probably going to have more of an impact down the stretch later in the season, right? Early days of the season, I'd expect Landry and Jones to be the primary edge rushers. Obviously, Ponder's going to come in and play a bit on third down, give us a bit of juice. But I feel like as the season goes on, maybe Akers gets more playing time. We saw Landry struggle with injuries down the stretch last year. Maybe that's where Akers comes into his own and gets himself on a little streak towards the end of the season and racking up a few sacks.
Someone's getting really mathematical now. 6.5.
6.5. Yeah, I mean, we'll take it. We'll take it. 6.5 will be solid. I think if we come out of the season and Akers has got 6.5 sacks as a rookie, I would classify that as a successful season.
I don't know. I said Henderson by week 10. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. We're going to get on out of it, guys. So me and Kieren have both made our predictions. We're going 12-5. Apparently, we're going 12-5. People say we're absolutely mental for it, but I don't think we're mental for it. I think we've done pretty well. I think there may be one or two games I could see us losing. Maybe the Germany game, potentially. Maybe. Potentially the Jags game, because the Jags game is always a little bit hit and miss with the weather and so on. So, but we've all got 12-5 on this one. The lads have also put their predictions in the chat as well. We'll get them posted on our social media platforms so you can actually see what we've gone for. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. Thank you to Kieren as well for being on for me tonight. I think we can all have a deserved sleep now because it is like nearly 11:30 at night. So I think obviously we'll go straight to bed. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Smash the like button on the way out. Gronk, spike the subscribe button. Tell all your friends. Follow us on our social media platforms. Make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify and on Apple as well. And we'll be back at some point next week for another show. I think, Kieren, we're going to try and do a reaction. Since obviously there's not a lot going on, and there's probably nothing going on now until the beginning of June, when the inevitable will happen. Next week we talk a little bit about episode 1 of the new series of Fortune Foxbow, just to see, as long as everyone's watched it. As long as everyone's watched it. So there we go. Yeah,
I'll give people time. One thing I did have up my sleeve, I know Rob's quite keen to do this, is I came up with a little Patriots game, didn't I, Karl? I've spoken to you guys about, whereas we basically fantasy draft our dream Patriots teams. So we'll have a QB, running back, receiver, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, corner, safety, whatever. So we'll take it in turns to draft a player for each position. But the caveat is Brady and Gronk are excluded from this draft because they are the two greatest players ever to play their position in the wide landscape of the NFL. So it would be totally unfair to include them in this. So, our panel will have to pick without those two.
That's fine. So you use someone like Drew Bledsoe or Steve Grogan.
Drake May, Bledsoe,
Doug Flutie.
Jimmy Garoppolo, Steve Grogan.
Doug Flutie. Yeah.
Doug Flutie. Yeah, that's it. Like tight ends wise, Hunter Henry, Ben Watson, Ben Coates, Aaron Hernandez.
Tompkinson.
Yeah, so it's a fun little draft game to fill content during the quiet period, but it'll be good fun to see what the people go with. We'll take it in turns to make picks, and then you guys can have a look at who got the best team.
Okay, fair enough. And yeah, that makes sense. That'll be good fun. We'll try and devise that in the next couple of weeks or so. But yeah, obviously we're back at some point next week for another show, guys. Make sure you tuned in. Make sure your notification bell is turned on as well, so you know when we go live or when we've got any uploads that are coming up. And we will see you next time. Patriots are going 12-5 apparently. Are we deluded? Nah. We just believe in our team. Go Patriots. See you later.